What's up guys, my name is Ace, and lately I've been thinking a lot about Call of Duty multiplayer, and the more I think about it, I keep reaching the same conclusion. It really feels like Call of Duty has lost a lot of its soul. And as a result, I also feel like there is very little hype these days for Call of Duty multiplayer. Of course, Warzone is doing great, it's extremely successful, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about traditional Call of Duty multiplayer. And I wanted to go through and just break down and share a bunch of reasons as to why I feel this has been happening over the past couple years. Because I don't think it does come down to just one reason. I think there's a few key things that they have changed up with how they approach things over the past couple years that have contributed to this decline in hype in the community. And just to be clear, this isn't a COD multiplayer is dead video because it seems to be doing just fine. It seems like they brought in a decent amount of new players or returning players from Modern Warfare 2019. And as much as a lot of people hate Cold War, it still seems to be a relatively popular game to play. It's just not all that popular on YouTube or Twitch. So let's start going through this, and as I mentioned, the big elephant in the room here is Warzone. I feel like this has just sort of stolen the show for Call of Duty, and this is a really obvious one. Warzone is incredibly popular on Twitch and on YouTube, and it really does seem to be bringing in tons and tons of money for Activision. So, of course, they've shifted much of their focus in the direction of Warzone, and it seems like a lot of that focus and attention has been taken away from multiplayer so that they can push Warzone as hard as possible. But like I said, that's kind of the obvious one. I don't think we really need to dive into too much more detail. I think most people understand that that's the case. I think another big factor, though, is how they are transitioning into creating Call of Duty as a game as a service rather than a product that you buy. I think they're in a really weird state as it is right now because they're trying to make that transition, but they're still selling it as if it's the same product that we used to get 5 years ago, where you buy your annual Call of Duty game. However, if we look back a few years before this big transition into a game as a service, you had most of the content there available to you right up front when you bought the game. The majority of the content was there day one. And then, of course, we had our map packs and season passes, and they would also bring in new weapons and stuff throughout the year. But those were always seen as sort of expansions or bonuses to the product that you bought. Whereas these days, it really feels like they're watering down a lot of that content and then they just drip feed it throughout the year. So what it feels like to me, at least, from the perspective of somebody that just prefers traditional Call of Duty 6v6 multiplayer, it seems like when I buy the new Call of Duty game, it's just sort of the base, it's just the starting point. And there's not a whole lot going on, but you sort of buy it with the promise of more to come. It will eventually be a completed product that you would normally expect day one. And that's how I've been feeling with Cold War, actually. When Season 3 dropped, this is where I'm starting to feel like, finally, Cold War is there. It's finally a full, complete package, and the current state of Cold War is pretty much what I would have expected on day one for an older Call of Duty game. We're about 7 or 8 months into the life cycle of Cold War at this point. It just feels ridiculous to me. It feels like by the time we have the complete game, most of the hype is already gone, and people just don't really care all that much. Now, don't get me wrong, as far as the monetization system goes over the past couple years, I really like what they've been doing with the seasonal system, where you don't have to buy a season pass or map packs, and therefore the player base doesn't get split up. Everybody is playing the same set of maps and everything. And also, every weapon that they add, you can just unlock by playing the game. You never have to spend a penny to get all of the playable, gameplay-changing content in the game. So I love that aspect of it, but it seems like that has come at the cost of a completed game at launch. It seems like instead of just giving us more, they're starting us off with less, and then we're getting what we would normally expect several months down the road. And this is one of the big flaws of running Call of Duty as a game as a service, because we're still getting annual releases as well. So we get this really slow drip feed of content over time, which would be fine if the game's supported life cycle was going to be lasting for several years. That's fine. That's something you start off small and you just build off of that long term until you have an amazing product that you just keep sticking with. But since Call of Duty is still releasing annually, it doesn't really make much sense. It seems like once the game finally gets into a good state, you're on to the next Call of Duty game. And it once again starts from scratch with very little content, and then you have to work through until many months down the road, then it finally feels like you have a completed game, and now you're already thinking about the next Call of Duty game. And in many ways, I feel like that has taken a lot of the soul out of Call of Duty multiplayer. There's not nearly as much hype surrounding it, at least within the online communities that discuss Call of Duty. Another thing that relates to this transition to the game as a service is the way they've been handling seasons. And again, monetization-wise, I really like what they've done. I like the fact that map packs are now included and all that kind of stuff, like I explained. But one huge thing that I feel has been eating away at the soul of COD for the past couple years is the fact that they've eliminated the prestige system and replaced it with a seasonal leveling system that resets your level every season. Now, I know not everybody cares the same amount about this. People play the game for different reasons, so it's fine if you don't care, but just know there are plenty of people out there that really cared about the prestige system, and that was a huge thing that they loved working toward for an entire year of Call of Duty until the next one came out, and they could do it all again. Now we have these seasonal levels that reset after every season. I have no idea what my current level is in Cold War, and I don't care. It's just going to get reset at the end of the season anyway. It means nothing to me. Whereas back in the day, it was nice to see that anytime I hopped on and played the game, I was always progressing toward that long-term goal of reaching Master Prestige or Master Prestige 1000 or something like that. It always felt like I was contributing towards something that wouldn't be just taken away from me once the season is over. I will always have that rank in that Call of Duty game. To go alongside this, I also think the Prestige system added a lot of replayability and heart to the Call of Duty franchise, because every time you prestiged, you would lose everything, and you would get to go through that process and unlock things again. You didn't have to do this, but for people that wanted to do this, they had that ability, they had that option, and I think that just added a lot of replayability and variety to the game. Not only variety for you to use, because every time you prestige, you have to start from scratch and earn all of the good perks and equipment and everything again, but also variety in what everybody else was using. I found people would branch out a lot more in older CODs because as they worked through prestiges, they wouldn't necessarily have all the best stuff unlocked all the time. And again, I just feel like this is an area that contributed to the heart and soul of what Call of Duty was in the past. Next up, another thing that I think is actually a much bigger deal than many people make it out to be, that strongly contributes to the feeling that COD has lost its heart and soul. This is the fact that lobbies now disband. In the past, I have many fond memories of going into a random lobby and having a social experience, sometimes for hours at a time, with the same group of random people. You would strike up conversations, you would get to know people, or if you weren't interested in that social aspect, at the very least, you would learn how people are playing the game, and you would adapt your playstyle, and they'd be adapting their playstyle to try and match you across multiple games, and I loved that aspect of Call of Duty. I love developing rivalries with certain people. If there was a really good player on the other team, I love trying to mix things up to counteract his playstyle better and try to best him in a game and maybe carry my team to victory. And that was just immediately snapped away from us with the launch of Modern Warfare 2019, and they carried that forward for Black Ops Cold War. And again, like I said, this might seem like a minor thing, but I think this is actually massive. This is a huge part of the heart and soul of Call of Duty, and apparently this is supposed to help with player retention. I don't really see how that's possibly the case, but I absolutely hate these disbanding lobbies. If you want to leave a lobby after a game, you should be able to decide that for yourself. Otherwise, the lobby should be sticking together. And going off of this, something that's somewhat related, I can't make this video without talking about this. This is skill-based matchmaking. Whatever they did with the skill-based matchmaking system with Modern Warfare 2019, which also seems to have carried over to Cold War, I think this has also taken tons of fun out of the Call of Duty franchise, because one of the big defining features of Call of Duty over the past decade is having those huge moments where you absolutely go off and you stomp on the enemies. I know many people see that as a negative thing, and I understand where you're coming from, but I feel like it's part of the identity of Call of Duty, or at least it used to be part of the identity of COD, where it's a type of game where anybody can pick up and play, it's really easy to get into, and everybody gets their big high moments and their big low moments. And it's not controlled by an algorithm, it just happens organically over time, and the better you get, the more often you're going to be getting those highs. And for tons of players, this was the driving force for them. This is what made them want to continue playing and keep getting better at the game and practicing the game and trying to learn the best tactics and strategies so they could be the ones pub stomping. Additionally, this made for a much more varied experience. You never knew what you were going to get when you get into a lobby. You might get a really easy lobby, you might get a really difficult lobby, but for the most part, you'd have a pretty good mix of players in that lobby, which meant from gunfight to gunfight, you didn't know what you were going to get into. Are you going to be against that one really good player they have on their team? Or are you going to be against an average player or a below average player? You never really knew, and that was exciting. Whereas now, with the way the skill-based matchmaking system is, especially combined with the disbanding lobbies, it feels like they've taken a lot of those highs away. And sure, they've also taken a lot of the lows away, but as a result, it feels like you just sort of get a bland middle ground experience all the time. There seems to be less hype or excitement for trying to get better at the game and work on improving at the game so you get more of those high moments more often. Now I just kind of feel like, what's the point? And this is one of the big reasons I haven't really been making like actual how to improve at Call of Duty videos or tactic videos. Instead, I just break down the weapons and tell you guys how they work because people are interested in that. So again, that's another huge area that's eating away at the soul of Call of Duty and has been for a couple years. Now, I'm sure this has also brought in a lot of new Call of Duty players that otherwise maybe would have left once they got stomped on too hard. But still, I do consider those pub stomps and stuff to be part of the soul of Call of Duty that has now been essentially taken away. But finally, one last general topic here that I wanted to talk about, and this does consist of various aspects. I feel like Call of Duty keeps trying to be something that it's not, and it keeps trying to appeal to and attract players from other franchises and other games. And in doing so, I feel like they've been straying too far from what made Call of Duty as successful as it was in the past. And for this, I've got several examples. One example would be all of the different multiplayer game modes they've been bringing in recently. It used to be we had 6v6, we would also have Ground War, we'd have Core and Hardcore. That was Call of Duty. Then with Modern Warfare 2019, we got Ground War, which is a totally different experience on totally different maps. We also had 2v2 Gunfight, which again, totally different experience on totally different maps. And while I'm sure that did bring in a lot of new players, I feel it also took a lot of the focus away from what the core of Call of Duty multiplayer was. And it seems like they've just really spread themselves thin for both Modern Warfare as well as Cold War. They've been spreading themselves thin, trying to please everybody from all these different franchises with all these different wants, instead of just focusing on what made Call of Duty successful in the first place. And therefore, for a lot of the really hardcore, dedicated Call of Duty fans, they just feel neglected because of this. Additionally, looking at some specific gameplay-related things, where it seems like they're trying to fix something that's not broken with the game. A great example of this was Modern Warfare 2019 with the minimap. For whatever reason, they decided to make this massive change to an area that is a core part of what Call of Duty has always been, since COD 4 at least, when the franchise blew up. And they decided to completely rework that thing that nobody had an issue with. Then, with Cold War, the score streak system. This is again an area that was a huge part of the core of Call of Duty, and it feels like for whatever reason they decided they wanted to try something new with this, without really having good reasoning behind this in my opinion. Now I am all for them trying new things, of course a franchise has to evolve in order to remain successful, but they shouldn't be doing that to the core elements of what made Call of Duty, unless there's a really good reason behind it. And with the minimap change in Modern Warfare, I don't think there was any good reasoning behind that. And the same thing goes with the score streak system in Cold War. I don't think there was a solid enough reason behind that. I feel like that took away from Call of Duty, rather than adding on to the success of Call of Duty and making something better than it was previously. So yeah, the video's getting a little bit long here. I could go on about this topic and bring up more examples, but I think I've gotten all my points across here, or at least the main points I wanted to discuss in today's video. Personally, even though I still enjoy the gameplay on a game-to-game basis with Call of Duty, I'm really disappointed in the direction that they've been taking multiplayer in general. It seems like they just keep watering the franchise down and getting further and further away from the core of what many of us knew and loved about the Call of Duty franchise. And like I said, it just seems like it's becoming more and more of a soulless experience. It's at the point where I don't know what Call of Duty is trying to be anymore, whereas before, we knew what Call of Duty was, and we knew what to expect every year going forward, and we loved that, or at least many of us loved that about COD. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my little rant and ramble today. I just wanted to get all that off my chest and share how I'm feeling about this in general. Of course, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think about this topic? Do you agree with me? Do you feel like Call of Duty has really started to lose its soul when it comes to the multiplayer experience? Or do you think it's totally fine as is, or maybe you think it's actually heading in a positive direction and you prefer how it is now compared to how it's been for the past decade before Modern Warfare 2019? Just let me know those thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.